I embezzled $4.6 million. I represented Beyoncé, Gwyneth Paltrow, Mariah Carey, Matthew McConaughey. We want you to come and take a lie detector test. Now I have to tell my wife the truth. And to my surprise, she said, well, why don't we Google how to beat the lie detector test? One day I had this brilliant genius idea that, you know what? Why don't I become a bookie with one of my fraternity brothers? Because bookies don't lose. And now I grew up poor, so I was around a lot of affluent college mates, right? And me, they're going out, they're going to the bars, they're going to get food, and I really didn't have access to money. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, let's become a bookie. So we become a bookie, this fraternity brother and I, for about 2 weeks. Why only 2 weeks? Because we're probably the only bookies in the entire globe that lost. Right. So we lost $10,000, $5,000 each. Now, for a college student, or at least I'll speak for myself, $5,000 was like the equivalent of $1 million to me. So now I leave SUNY Albany and I put the onus on my fraternity brother to take care of the $10,000 in entirety. So that was the start of some really poor choices and bad behaviors. And the funny thing is, I tried to make amends to that fraternity brother who now lives in Israel, and he basically I sent him a Facebook message when I was off probation, and he sends me this text saying, "Go F yourself. Right. I hope you die of cancer." And you know what? He's right. Turns out he had to take a job to pay my portion. And again, what kind of schmuck like myself would do that to someone who I cared about? And I did. And I felt terrible, but obviously I blocked him off of Facebook. Right. And let's just say we're no longer friends on Facebook. And, when I had the money, I should have paid him back. I just never did. So now I moved to San Francisco because at this time my mother was living in San Francisco with her husband. I called her up. I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm transferring. Can I come live with you? And is there a college I can go to and finish the last, call it, year and a half, 2 years of my studies?" She said, "Yeah." So I went and moved in with her and her husband. Took a part-time job in the financial district of San Francisco for a CPA firm, and went to San Francisco State to get my degree.
Is that what you thought you were, like when you entered college, did you think finance?
Yeah.
Is that what you were?
Yes. Unfortunately, the only subject I was good at in school was accounting, finance.
The bookie thing doesn't lend well.
There's maybe no correlation. That could have been the cannabis that affected and impaired my cognitive abilities. But I have 7 cousins in my family that are accountants. So I believe I was predetermined or predestined to be an accountant. Okay. And one of them was an accountant in the entertainment community, specializing in music. So when I graduated San Francisco State, I called him up and I said, "Hey, cuz, I'm ready to come work for you." He said, "You're not ready to come work for me. You're immature, irresponsible. What do you know about business management? My suggestion, Johnathan, is that you go work for a sole practitioner or a larger, one of the big 4 firms at the time, and hone your analytical skills. And then when I think you're ready, I'll give you a call." So now fast forward, I get a job working full-time after I graduate college for a sole practitioner CPA firm in the San Francisco financial district. And it was the best suggestion I could have received because I really learned so much of the trade and how to hone my skills. And so he called me 3.5 years later and he said,
"Oh, jeez."
He said, "You're ready to come work for me." So at the time I had a wife now. Right. I've had my first of 3 sons now. And we moved down, we drove from San Francisco to Los Angeles. And I started working for him. We got this small little apartment in Brentwood. My cousin who hired me was paying me bupkis, but it was like going to grad school and getting paid something, right? But the financial stressor and the pressure was on. I was the first one in the office, the last one to leave, because I didn't want the word nepotism associated with me. And I learned a lot. And then in 1999, he was acquired by Chase Manhattan Bank, now JP Morgan, and he asked me if I want to get into family wealth management. I said, "Cuz, I love you. Thank you for the opportunity, but I want to stay in entertainment business management."
Oh, okay. And that's what you didn't mention, that's what he was focusing on.
That's his focus. Yeah. Okay. He was really well respected as the great music mind. I mean, he had some of the greatest clients you could have. He was a brilliant mind. He had a brilliant mind.
And so how do you stay in entertainment if he's being acquired? You go get another job, right? Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video. Did you know that Dell had a breach that exposed over 3.9 million customer records, including sensitive personal information? Then Ticketmaster had 560 million records compromised, but the scariest one is national public data. Just a few months ago, they suffered a massive breach, potentially impacting every American. Over 2.9 billion records exposed. Things like full name, address, date of birth, phone numbers, and even social security numbers. Those records didn't just disappear. The hackers released them online for free. So if you think your data is safe, think again. That's why I use Aura, today's sponsor. Aura is an all-in-one digital security platform that monitors your personal data, including your social security number, across billions of data points. They'll alert you if anything sensitive shows up, whether it's on the dark web or in public records. And if the worst happens, Aura has you covered with up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. But it doesn't just stop there. Aura offers you so much more to keep you safe online. Things like real-time breach alerts, a VPN for secure browsing, data broker opt-outs to stop companies from selling your information, and even a password manager to help you create and store strong passwords. Right now, your personal information could be floating around the internet, but you could head to aura.com/Matt and try Aura for 2 weeks free. In just 2 weeks, Aura will tell you if any of your personal data is exposed. You don't want to wait for your data to be leaked to realize you need protection. Do yourself a favor. Go to aura.com/Matt to get your free trial and start protecting what's yours today.
I was starting to make a name for myself, albeit a small name. My cousin allowed me to start working on, let's say, some B-level clients.
Okay.
And so people heard that I was doing some good work. And so this particular person, I called, I said, hey, his name is Michael. I said, I'm leaving the firm. I'm looking for another place to work. He said, let's have dinner tonight. So we had dinner that night. He made an offer I couldn't refuse. And so from that moment forward, I worked for GSO Business Management, which was the firm in which I ultimately became a partner in about 4+ years after starting there. And that's when the spiral started.
What exactly is it that you're doing?
So what business managers do, when I was starting to solicit clients, they would ask me, what's the difference between a traditional CPA and a business manager? Well, first of all, unfortunately, anybody can call themselves a business manager. Right? The business managers that have the 3 initials as a professional designation, CPA after, are the ones that, at least if I'm searching for a business manager, that I want to hire. And so I had the CPA designation. And so what's the difference is most CPAs, traditional people, the stereotype is that you hire them, you retain them for tax work, right? They plug in your W-2s and your other things, and they turn around and they pull out of their printer these forms, these tax forms now, because they know how to enter the data.
And they know what the write-offs are. They know what you can depreciate, what is an asset. Yeah.
Correct. And tax was boring to me, frankly. And so what a business manager does is that financial statement that, we have bookkeepers, that pay the client's bills, right? That creates the expense side of a financial statement. We collect all their income as a business management firm, right? A bookkeeper is assigned to a client, deposits the checks, pays the bills. Now you're creating a financial script. And then we have a tax department that handles the taxes. We have a insurance risk management department because we live in a very litigious society, and these high net worth celebrities are targets of lawsuits, right? You could be an artist, a drummer, and you throw your a pick out, or a guitar player and you throw your pick out and it hits a fan in the eye, you're likely going to be sued,
right?
And that happens. So we have risk management, we have a tax department, we have a royalty department, because all of these things are revenue streams for clients,
right?
In terms of royalties and touring. And so the difference is business managers can look at a financial statement. Every line item means something towards the client's financial script.
Right.
Whereas CPAs are pretty much narrowly focused, for the most part, not all, of course, on taxes.
Right. So you're also trying to determine that, if Warner Brothers pays this guy $2.5 million, are you saying, look, we can offset your taxes by putting $1 million into this fund and or that sort? Are you also allocating money or saying, obviously having a conversation with them and saying, look, we can put this much money here. You don't have to pay taxes on it right now until you take it out. Put this much money here. We can buy this. Are you trying to manage their tax, what was it, liability?
Right. Yeah, we're certainly doing a lot of tax planning throughout the year
Tax planning.
and trying to minimize their tax liability.
Okay.
What we didn't do as business managers, and some business managers still do this today, is invest. We're not asset managers.
Okay.
So we're not managing their portfolio of investments. We're not telling them that you should invest in stock A, B, or C. But what we do is we say, okay, we have these really strong relationships with, let's say, the top 3 asset managers in the entertainment space.
Right.
Why don't you meet with these 3 if you don't have your own asset manager now? See which ones you like, because you have the choice, and only you, to select the one that you feel can manage your portfolio and meet your short, mid, and long-term goals, right?
Right.
So the reason why these 3 were selected for us to, kind of introduce to the client is because they represent a lot of our clients. So they know that if they mess up on one client, we're going to fire them from all clients.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Right. So that was our leverage, if you will. So we didn't get involved, but as business managers, we're sort of the quarterback of the client's financial world, despite them having an asset manager. So I was involved in all the meetings with the asset manager, because the asset manager doesn't know this client has publishing income coming in 3 months from now, and this is what we're estimating that monthly income is, that revenue is going to be.
Right.
This is what we're projecting to be the tour profits from the upcoming world tour, and so on and so forth. So we want that information, and we want to provide it to the asset manager so they know how to, invest the client's monies, in order to achieve the respective client's goals.
Okay. So when you move from your
Cousin's firm, yes.
when you move from your cousin's firm to the new firm, do you bring your clients with you, or because wouldn't that be, because that would be your cousin would be pissed. Well, he's selling anyway. What does he care? But anyway, is that a whole thing, or you have to start over and get new clients, or do they give you new clients?
Great question. So he blessed me with giving me like 3, 4, B-level clients. So I was able to take a very small book of business over to this existing firm.
Right. Are these B-level clients? To me, B-level clients, if you're lucky, B-level clients become A-level clients, but some B-level clients just never, they're always secondary, role. They're never going to be the lead in a movie, or do any of these people ever move up? I'm just curious.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They do. So I took some of those clients, and, like, for example, Ruthless Records, which was Eazy-E's estate. I mean, it's not like necessarily a B-level client, but it's also not, an A-level, a Taylor Swift of today, if you will, right? And I actually loved very much and cared very much for the widow of Eazy, whose name is Tamika Woods Wright. So she agreed to come with me. Boney James, a jazz artist, came with me. John B., a young hip hop R&B guy, came with me, and those were small clients at the time. And some of them grew, like Ruthless Records grew. She was able to grow Eazy's label when he died in 1995. And she actually helped produce Straight Outta Compton movie.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of respect for her. But the real break in my career, I wasn't made a partner so fast, as I said earlier. I had to really also continue with my work ethic, be the first one in, the last one to leave, learn from now a new mentor in my life, Michael Oppenheim, who represents some of the greatest artists in the world, the M&Ms at the time, the Backstreet Boys. I really admired him, and unfortunately he passed away in early last year, and I was still on probation. And the hardest part of that was that I couldn't, under probation, I was not allowed to speak to my former partners or my direct victims. And that was really hard for me. And I really wanted to go to the funeral, but I knew that I wouldn't be welcome at the funeral.
Right.
And so that was tough, and I think about him every day. I want to make amends to his wife and daughter, but I've been advised that making amends could cause her harm and bring up some bad memories. And so when that's the case, you choose not to make amends. So at this point in my life, as much as I want to make amends, I don't think it's the right time to do that to his beautiful wife and daughter. So he got a meeting with Linkin Park in 2000. And at the end of 2000, November 2000, was their first album, Hybrid Theory, released. So Linkin Park comes and takes this meeting.
It just kills me that you're my age and you know all the names of all these people. I can't. I mean, I recognize the only person I recognize so far is Linkin Park.
Okay.
You know, but I couldn't tell you one name. I couldn't tell you the fact that you're, you know, it makes me feel so old that, or so just out of touch with the fact that you're in touch with all that you know who these people are, and I don't.
It's funny you say that too, because the truth is I'm not enamored by musicians, artists, or anybody, right? They put the same socks and shoes on that you and I do, right? So I never got caught up in that part of the entertainment world. And even my friends today that knew me throughout my whole career will say, you never were really like excited when you would tell us who you represented. And then I would ask you, they would ask me, do you know so-and-so? And I would say, I know them, but I really don't know their music. See, because I wasn't on the talent side, right? I was on the financial side. So the names that I'm sharing with you today are names that I worked with. And that's probably the only reason why I know them.
Right, okay.
So I'm like you. I'm not really immersed today in the music business.
Makes me feel a little better.
That was my goal, to make you feel good. But so Linkin Park got this great break in 2000 when they released Hybrid Theory. So they interviewed prior to in early that year, right? They were this young, new artists. No one really heard of them, but the manager said, you want to take a chance on these guys. They've got some real opportunities for success here. And as business managers who specialize in music, film, and all of that, like we did, you have to take a chance. You don't have to, you consider taking chances, because one of these young artists could become a major artist tomorrow. Right? So they interviewed a whole bunch of business managers, and Michael Oppenheim and I took a meeting with them. And they liked, sort of, at that time I was considered young, they liked the young guy and the older guy, and we really connected with them. All 6 of the band members came in, and we were fortunate enough to get them, because that was sort of the crossroad of my personal career with them, professional career. They came out of the box when they released this album, Hybrid Theory, faster than most any artist in the history at that time. I'll still use the word CDs and albums. They sold, I think, 20 million albums or whatever they sold in the first year after the release of Hybrid Theory. They were like a tremendous success. Because of that success that they had and the expectations that they had on a business manager, myself, they really taught me a lot about what I needed to do to become a better business manager. I mean, they treated their music like it was, Apple, right? Which was rare, because the first time I went on their tour bus, I'm thinking sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is going to be awesome. Well, it was 6 guys playing video games, and they were nerds. Right. But they're nerds because they took their music and their career seriously. And I really admired them for that. And it was a great opportunity. So from that moment, now I'm getting calls from agents, lawyers, personal managers saying, hey, we want to take you to lunch or dinner. And now my business started to grow. And that was sort of that's why I say that was Linkin Park was the crossroad of my quote unquote success.
At this time, are you already having issues with addiction?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I kind of assumed it was kind of always kind of there, but it's not. It hasn't. Okay.
No, I mean, to answer your question,
are you gambling at all?
Not really. No.
Okay.
Like when I say not really, so I gambled in college as the bookie.
Yeah.
I dabbled in my cousin's firm. I gambled. I had like a week worth of gambling where I actually lost like $3,000, and my cousin's partner paid that debt off for me.
Ooh.
And then I stopped. I didn't gamble until that came later.
Okay. So now you're kind of, you're up and coming. People are instead of you seeking them out, they're seeking you out. So how do we go forward from there? What happens there? Who are, are you getting bigger clients? I mean, or is it more of the up and coming people? Or is it are these more established people reaching out to you at this point?
More established. Now I would use the term A-listers, right? So now Linkin Park falls in the category of an A-lister.
Right.
Then the next big break for me was Alanis Morissette.
Okay.
Now Alanis Morissette wasn't perhaps relevant as much as she was back when Jagged Little Pill was, came out. She was still Alanis Morissette. I mean, she was still an icon, a legend, if you will. And it was great because that one I sort of got on my own, right? Whereas Linkin Park, it was me and Michael. That was for me to either get her or not get her. So she was taking these meetings with about 10 business managers, 6, whatever it was. And I was the only business, so I go there. And the irony behind why she selected me over, call it, the others, is because I brought visual aids. I was Johnathan transparent at this time.
Right.
Right? I was the one who said, this is, if you want to, work with me, we'll meet every month. I'm going to bring you your we're going to do a financial budget. And this is what a financial budget looks like personally and professionally. If you're going on tour, let's discuss your tour budget, your bottom line, and see if you're comfortable with the profit margin before you commit to the tour. If you're not yet committed, let's see how we can sort of, reduce some of the production expenses,
Right.
or maybe you'll sell out and maybe there'll be some bonuses or overages. So anyway, Alanis was that next client for me. And it was really nice to work with her. As you know, she was like the one client of a handful of clients that I embezzled money from that spoke publicly about this. So she actually came to my sentencing and spoke so beautifully against me. But I mean, she's all kidding aside. I know it's funny, but she's the one. I mean, she really did. Her and my former partner Bernie presented a strong case in front of the judge as to what an ASS this guy Johnathan is.
Right.
And they were right. I mean, the one thing about Alanis is she's super intellect, and she, like I said, she really nailed it well. I almost wanted to melt when I heard what she was saying about how much harm I caused her. And the truth is, I caused her tremendous harm.
All right.
She didn't deserve any of that, nor did some of the other clients deserve it. But sitting her on the side of the government was hard. It was hard, but deservingly so. I needed, I needed to hear it at that time, because I was, even as I entered sentencing, I had an ego, like, oh, I'm not going to get this. I'm only going to get 1.5 years, 2 years. Like, that ego still entered the room when I could be facing several years, many years.
Right. So she ends up hiring you, and so you're meeting with her once a month, going over plans. How long does this go on until things start going bad, or are there other? Well, I understand you get additional clients.
Right.
What year is this when you take her on?
It was probably early 2000s.
Right. And what kind of, or just in general, what kind of money are you making in general every year just working at the company? I mean, is this a job you're making a couple $100,000 a year, or is it more than that?
So the way it worked is I had 3 partners, right? So the 4 of us, okay, we would all have our respective clients.
Right.
And so at the end of the year, we would say, okay, Johnathan, you brought in this much. Other partners 2, 3, and 4, you brought in this much. Take the profit margin of the company. And so whatever I brought in was multiplied by, let's say, 45% profit margin. I would get paid that. So before I really started to become successful in what I did, I probably only made like $500,000, $750,000. But before I left, I was making
$500,000 a year.
A year, yeah.
That was before you became successful.
Correct.
And this is almost 20 years ago.
Correct.
Yeah. How were you living on that, bro?
Well,
Like, I mean, were you?
Come on now.
You're the whole family's there living in one bedroom in bunk beds. I mean, what's going on?
Fair. But I will say, and the irony is, money didn't bring me the happiness. I was miserable.
Right.
So shortly thereafter, I started making probably 7 figures, 1.3 million, 1.4 million a year, and now I'm making real money, and now I could provide for my wife, and now fast forward 3 kids.
Because on the $500,000 you couldn't.
Well, you can't buy the house that my wife wanted. Okay, agree.
She was driving the low end Mercedes. She was driving the. Oh my God!
So I probably should choose my words better. Listen, it was a lot of money. 500,000 was a lot of money.
Can you imagine that there's 4 guys on a roof right now listening to this? They're like, "Fucking motherfucker."
No, that was definitely a lot of money at that time. But I'm using that was like the base of me starting to make my introduction to making real money, 500,000. Right now, I'm graduating to 7 figures. And it feels good. I could really, at 500,000, I couldn't buy the house in Los Angeles in the suburbs that, let's say, my family wanted, but we were able to buy a small house, and we had a lot of expenses. And again, yes, in reality, it's a lot of money. But then as I started to make more, we were able to provide more for our kids and put one of them in private school and things like that. And also, we spent money on vacations. I was pretty irresponsible when it came to spending money. Certainly at the commencement of my addiction.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I was quasi responsible.
So when does that happen? When does your addiction become an issue?
2010.
Okay.
2000.
Why?
It's a great question. So the why is because I was coaching my kids' youth sports teams, their baseball and other soccer and basketball, and I met a gentleman who was I won't call him a gentleman. I really like to call him a name, but I won't use foul language with you right now. He was an assistant coach, and he said he was so he was into real estate. He dabbled in.
Those are the worst.
I tell you. I don't know anyone else.
I already know he's a scumbag. You don't have to say no more.
There you go, commercial real estate, and he avid quasi-professional poker player. So he knows I like sports. So he says to me, "Why don't you want to bet?" I'm like, I bet from time to time. Sure, I'll place a bet. So I placed my first bet. Maybe it's $50, right?
You have never, so far in every betting story you've told, you've lost money. So you I mean, at some point, you seem like a smart guy. You'd say maybe I should
stay away from it, huh?
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
10 grand here, 3 grand here.
Fair. Unfortunately, I wasn't smart then. Again, one of my many poor choices leading up to where we are right now. So start betting, $50, maybe $100, and all of a sudden, I became really now it wasn't something in moderation. Now I was completely dependent on gambling, and so from 2010 to probably end of 2015, I was gambling, or some point in 2015, I was gambling every day for 6 years, literally every day. There is no exaggeration. I turned my phone records over to the government. I don't even want to tell you how much they said I gambled, unless you're interested.
I am interested.
Okay.
What are you? I mean,
so the government,
$50 a day is not.
Well, it became
hurt you.
It became $21 million gambled over a 6-year period. So it was the $50 became, betting every day on sports. Literally, the phone records show bookie being called. This guy became my bookie.
Right.
This guy, and so it turned out that this guy also told me he was just a liaison as a friend. And because I was betting hundreds of thousands of dollars a day now, he said, I'm just doing this as a favor for you. So you'll just pay me the 10% too. And the bookie will get his 10%. Okay. When you lose, which obviously I lost most times, as you alluded to earlier.
Right.
And it turned out 3-4 years into this gambling disease, if you will, or addiction, it turned out he was actually the bookie. So now he's been taking advantage of me, and
okay, so so it wasn't $21 million in loss; it was just $21 million in gambling.
In gambling, placing the bets, and at the end of each week, so every night, so now
some of this money is just being reinvested.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So now Sunday nights come along for me.
Do you know how much? Sorry, do you know how much loss there is?
$7 million. $7 million.
Hey.
So I got that on me. No. Okay.
So I was a degenerate. Let's be honest. I was a complete degenerate.
But you're driving a nice car.
I'm actually driving a Prius, I think, at this time. I was driving some nice cars. Yes, but again, yes, I was driving some nice cars.
How does it scale from $50 the first bet? Is it a rapid jump? Like, was there a point where you just kind of felt? How do you go? Do you go to full tilt? Like, okay, like I don't know. Like, how does that progress?
Yeah, because I'm so impulsive, and I only know two extremes, left and right. There's no in between anymore for me. Now probably I would say after a few months. Okay, so after a few months, now I'm like, whoa, this is I'm gambling every day. $50, $100 doesn't mean anything to me. I'm going to go, $1,500, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 a game. But remember, it's also, I'm not betting just one game. So for example, on a Saturday when there's college football, I'm betting every game on the board. First of all, there's no good gambler, right? But the worst gambler was Johnathan Schwartz. You don't bet on every game, right? And not only did I bet on every game, I bet the totals, okay? Over-unders. I bet parlays. I bet teasers. I bet first half, second half. So now think about this. Every game, most games, I'm doing all bets. Doing 4 or 5. I've got 4 or 5 directions within each game. Now Sunday comes along. Now I'm like, shit.
Right.
I'm in the shit.
You can say shit.
Shit. Now I'm in the hole. I got to win on Sunday because after Sunday, the bookie needs to be paid by Tuesday.
Right.
So I'm not sleeping during this 5-6 year run at all because Sundays are the worst. I'm thinking maybe I won one every 4 Sundays at best, right? And so now I'm thinking, okay, I go to sleep. So this money adds up. It's like $250,000 a day now. I'm betting, on the weekends when there's all these games and activities, right? So during the week, there's maybe a basketball game, college or basketball. It's not 250,000, but on Saturday and Sunday, those are the big days and that's why I'm playing the over-unders, the teasers, and all that stuff.
Does this guy he doesn't make you, what do they call it, level up before he takes another bet, or he just lets it ride?
He lets it ride.
Okay.
And
is that the right term, level up? Is that? No?
It's a term I haven't heard, but it's probably a good term.
Oh, okay. Well, what is it? Will you
I don't have to give him I don't have to have money on credit.
Okay.
In other words, I don't have to give him money to hold.
Okay.
And is sports gambling legal at this time or where you're at?
No.
This guy is, yeah. That's like, to me, well, I guess it depends on where you are, or what kind of a guy he is. I mean, to me, it could be like, yeah, I'm in the hole, but I'm not going to do this anymore. Well, you owe me $250. Yeah, go fuck yourself. I paid you made $4 million over the last fucking 5 years, so I'm not going to pay you the $250. But the problem is it depends on what kind of guy that is. Okay, well, great. I'm going to start burning your cars down. I'm going to make your life miserable. I'm going to
right.
So
right.
But you didn't get to that.
I didn't get to that point.
Okay.
But there is a point later where I wish I would have burned his car down.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So now I'm playing now I'm really immersed into it, and I really didn't like gambling. I began to hate gambling. Sometime in maybe say 2012, 13, I really started to hate it because every night, like I said earlier, I'm not sleeping, and I'm keeping this dark secret from my wife, from all my friends. Nobody knows what I'm doing. So now, you call it halfway into this gambling, 6-year run, I'm thinking to myself, inevitably, I'm going to get caught. Like, how am I going to pay this? It was one client, then it became another client.
Oh, wait a minute. All right. So at this point, you're not using your own money.
Thank you. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Then I thought you were just like, you're making $1 million a year plus. I'm thinking you're just taking your checks and paying this guy and getting a little bit back, paying him, getting a lot back, paying him, losing, back and forth. But it's your own money.
Right.
At this point, it's not your own money?
Right. So I quote unquote borrowed.
So what? Yeah, I was going to say, what is the first time that happened?
So I borrowed in 2010 when I started gambling from, let's say, $25,000 from Alanis, borrowing it. The intent was I'm going to pay her back this next week, right? Because I'm a great gambler, right?
Right.
Next,
although everything indicates that that's not true.
Sure. In my mind, right? This is the degenerate mind of a gambler. I'm thinking, I'll just pay her back. So I'm just going to quote unquote borrow it. Well, the next week comes and I lose again. What a surprise. And now I'm like, shoot, I could either go into my own bank account, but now my wife's going to find out. My partners are going to find out. So I'm like, I'll win. I'll pay her back. Well, that day didn't come until another day long into the future, right, which we'll get to at another time. But so I started, I embezzled $4.6 million from Alanis Morissette. Now this is public knowledge, so I'm sharing that. And we'll get to how I understood that amount too. That's really an important part of this. My story is like, I was such a degenerate that I didn't realize it was that much money that I took from her, that I took from another client. And it was about 5, maybe 6 clients in total that I embezzled from. They all got paid back, but it doesn't make what I did wrong right.
So are you the only person that has eyes on the numbers on their book? Like at no time can Alanis go and look at her own balance? Like can she go into, she can't pull up her Wells Fargo account and say, how much do I have in checking? Hey, no? Or is this all of these are, I call you send something, you email me something, and that's it. There's no.
Good question. So they can have access. Now, this is what's still going on in the entertainment space today, where there's not enough transparency. Right. And so the reason why I was able to get away with this, unfortunately, for as long as I did, I wish I didn't get away with it. I wish I got caught right away.
Right.
But I didn't. So when I would meet with Alanis every month, to meet with her one time, I would create these Excel spreadsheets. Right. What I didn't bring with me was source documents, i.e. bank statements. Okay. Had she asked me for a bank statement,
done.
I'm done.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd be done. So that was where Johnathan became this manipulator, right? Like, because I was afraid to get caught. And again, the sad part is I really respect, I know I sound like a moron saying this, but I really respected her, and I respected the other handful of clients that I took from. But now I'm chasing. How am I going to pay Atlantis back? Now, how am I going to pay the next client back? So when I say I hated gambling, it's like all I'm doing at this point is chasing to try and win back this money. And that's where it really got out of control for me.
It's funny because I always say whenever I've had guys on here who have run Ponzi schemes, Ponzi schemes always start the same way, which is we had a bad quarter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they always, we had a bad quarter. Like it's always the delusion that, so we lied to the client, or I lied to the client about that we told them we didn't have a bad quarter, or at least I didn't tell them as bad as it was. And I just figured we're going to make it up on the next quarter. So we doubled down on the next quarter. We lost again.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now I've lost so much. I don't know how I'm going to make it up. The next quarter, I think, okay, well, if we do this, we can make it up. And before you know it, they're so in debt. Now you're practically just hoping you have decent quarters to be able to pay, and it just becomes a full-blown Ponzi scheme, and everything is just a straight lie from then on. And then you're just trying to keep the balls in the air long enough. You're just trying to continue to keep the balls in the air so nobody finds out how bad it is. And then it just keeps growing and growing until eventually it all comes down. But anyway.
No, it's a great way of saying it. That's exactly what happened. My world crumbled. But again, the chasing was awful. Like I literally was scared every night that when I heard a siren, I was going to get caught. And I subconsciously wanted to get caught because I didn't have the courage to ask for help.
Right.
Very different than fast forward to where I am today. I believe that asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. And I wish I would have viewed it that way. Call it after the first few months of getting into this degenerative lifestyle and mindset, I should say. And I really, although like I said earlier, although my clients got paid back, what I did was completely wrong. It doesn't make anything I did right. I take full responsibility for it. And I hurt a lot of people. We'll talk more about that. But that was Atlantis and what happened with Atlantis. And
so did any, but this has happened with multiple clients.
Yes.
Do any of the clients show up and say, hey, can you bring the bank statements?
No.
No, never.
Never. This is so in my book, you'll see out, hopefully, God willing, in a year, you'll see that I detail and give real solid suggestions for celebrities today. Be proactive.
Right.
Ask for source documents. Trust needs to be earned. And perhaps maybe I earned the trust, at that time, because it was before I really started the cycle. But the reality is the clients, deserve to see the source documents.
Right.
And there are still business managers today taking money from clients.
Well, I think that probably what happens is, well, one, it makes me think of that great Ronald Reagan quote, trust but verify. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think probably, probably clients don't want to say that because they don't want to. It feels embarrassing. It puts you in a position where it's like you're saying, look, I don't trust you. Bring the bank statements. And that, of course, that's an uncomfortable situation. That's uncomfortable to say that to someone. But the truth is that, look, when money is, when I always say this, you really know what someone's like when money is involved, right? Like you could have, I've had good friends. You think this is a great guy, known him 6 years, and then suddenly they borrow money, or you guys have an agreement or a business arrangement or something, and when it comes down to it, suddenly they're like, they don't want to pay you, or they want to pay you less, or they want to have an argument, or they want to say, yeah, but I put in this and I worked harder than you, and it's like, we had an arrangement. And you suddenly realize what someone's really like. So to say, hey, and to me personally, if I was one of these celebrities that was going to one of these meetings, I wouldn't even say it a week beforehand. I would say it the day before, like literally the day or hours before. By the way, I need you to go, even, hey, do you have access to that? Oh, yeah, great. I need you to print off the bank statements. And here's why I say that, is that I actually created fake online banks. And I already had bank statements that were blank colored front and back bank statements. So I was able to go and print bank statements that look like the bank mailed them to you in color front and back. So the problem with that is that if you were to ask me to do that, if you ask me 3 days beforehand, I'll have them ready for you.
Right.
But if you ask me 2 hours beforehand, man, there's a lot of numbers. Like unless you've got some kind of a spreadsheet that's going to automatically, populate the entire thing and print it out. If you said, hey, by the way, I need you to send me bring the last 6 months bank statements, I'd be like, we're going to have to reschedule. I just had to call you back 2 hours later, or an hour later, and go, listen, you're not going to believe, my wife's in the hospital. I got to go. I'm going to have to put this back. And if that happened, I'd be like, oh, no. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Because, that's what I'm saying about, like, if you ask, you can't give them too much time either.
Right.
Because if you're doing this, if you're all in, these people have a lot of money. They'll find somebody. You can go find somebody online. Right now, W-2s and pay stubs. There are websites right now you can go to and say, hey, I need 2 W-2s for the last 2 years that say I made over $250,000. And they'll print them. You say, I want a year-to-date pay stub that says I'm making this much. They'll print them out, send them to you. I go, yeah, here, right here. You can't give them too much time. I don't know about bank statements, but.
No, you're absolutely right. And listen, and today I will say this, like, and Linkin Park was the start of this. Like what I said earlier, they really viewed their career, whether it was merchandising, street team marketing, publishing, touring, and all the other things that they did as entrepreneurs, they really treated it as a business.
Right.
Young artists, so the artists started to do that more. It wasn't about the sex, drugs, and rock and roll for many artists, many athletes, and actors and actresses. They're starting to get more proactive in their financial affairs, but some of them are not. So, I hope that momentum of being proactive, really not just pouring your trust into someone because your lawyer recommended or manager recommended this person to be your business manager. Spend quality time with them. Like ironically, I spent a lot of quality time with each client. Right. Many of them came to my kids' bar mitzvahs. Many of them, we went places together.
Well, that's part of the problem. They like you as a person.
Correct.
They don't want to embarrass you or create a tense situation by saying, hey, by the way, could you print off the last 3 months bank statements for me real quick, just to double check. They feel like you might be like offended. They don't want to offend you. Well, we're friends. We go to dinner. I call this guy once a week. He's looking after me. Of course I trust him. Right. You want to feel that way.
Sure.
But you have to differentiate. Right, great. And I want to keep trusting you. So print the fucking bank statements.
Absolutely. You have to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. And my intention wasn't to steal or embezzle initially. It was really genuine intentions.
This is a business relationship.
Correct.
There's nothing wrong. It's like having a business friend. We're friends at business, but guess what? When I worked as an insurance adjuster for 6 months at this one place, and I thought I had some really good friends, I never talked to those guys again.
Right, sure.
We're business friends. We laughed and joked and everything. I never talked to you outside of work.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, no, it's true. We must establish professional boundaries, right? And that's what I'm hoping is happening in the entertainment space today.
So for Alanis, why did you choose her account to pull from initially? Or was there something that you looked for down the line? Like, okay, I know that I can, hide money from these people. Like, they won't really suspect it. Was there something, what made you choose them over someone else, I guess?
Sure, great question.
I was going to say, it almost sounds like it could have been any of them because none of them were asking for verification.
Correct. So I first started with Alanis because we had earmarked a bank account of $4.44 million, if you will, for her to eventually buy another house. So the monies were segregated, right? And I knew she wasn't going to touch that, or at least hoped she wasn't going to touch that for years. And by then, of course, I'm going to pay her back, right? The mindset, again, of the degenerate I was. And so that's how come she was sort of the first of a handful of victims, if you will, because she never really asked about that account.
Right.
And the intention was she wasn't going to ask until she was ready to buy a house. And I knew that I had a few years, a cushion, if you will, before she would really want to buy a house. And then I better pay her back by then. So that's why she became called victim number one.
For a $4 million house, $5 million. I mean, I'd be afraid everything would go wrong. I wouldn't even be able to afford the taxes, Let's face it, if the music career goes downhill, you have to go get a job at what's the famous restaurant out there? Easy Burger or something? Was it?
Oh, In-N-Out Burger.
In-N-Out Burger. Like,
of course.
I can't make the taxes on In-N-Out Burger. Not that she's gonna, but
no,
still.
But a lot of these clients like her at this time, she's a legend at this time, right? She's an icon. She has multiple homes. She has real assets, and
Right.
she's done a very good job saving money. Basically, I realized I can't take from Alanis anymore, right? And I don't know what made me think that, but it was in my mind. I didn't even know it was the 4.6 million at that point yet. In fact, I didn't know that until I got caught at the end. I'm thinking it was maybe $1 million, $2 million from that household account. And what happened was, I'm like, let me go take from another client. What other client isn't very proactive in their financial affairs? Again, a client, of course, that I care deeply for, but those are all of my clients. So what other client am I going to take from? Because I can't take it out of my own account still. My ex-wife will kill me. My partners will kill me. My career will be over. Let me just continue to chase. And as a degenerate, that's what I did. And it became another client who, out of respect, I'll keep anonymous. That client, the listeners can guess who they may be. In the book, maybe I'll reveal a little bit more. Maybe I won't. But so I started taking money from this other client, and this other client I took $1 million from, and then some other client
Right away, or
over a period of time.
Okay.
Again, from 2009, 10, if you will, to 2015-ish. That 6-year period.
Was it the same thing? They had allocated certain funds. There was like a dormant account that they were putting money into, and you just started pulling because you knew they never checked on that.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I think it'd be hard to do on the spreadsheet.
Correct.
If they knew they had an investment of, I got 400,000 in this account, and then suddenly for it to not, for you to pull from that account, I think it'd be easier to continually cook the books if it was a dormant account that didn't have a lot of activity.
So what I started to do is I started to call up an asset manager that represented this client. And I said, client A needs $25,000 this week. They're over their monthly budget. He's like, really? Why are they so over their budget? And I said, well, I don't know. They're just spending. I'm lying, right?
Yeah.
I'm lying. I'm in survival mode. Like, how is this degenerate going to continue until I can pay people back? So I've got to continue my lies and manipulation and so I did. And now this asset manager who represented about 2 or 3 of my clients was the only one, by the way, that I was able to make amends to when I came home. Because truthfully, he trusted me when I said to wire the money to their checking accounts. And when this came out, those 3, let's say those 2 or 3 clients he represented, I'm sure they gave him a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
You said I could use that word, so I'm still using it. So I wanted post probation. I called him. He was kind enough to call me back. I made amends to him, and thankfully he's in recovery over 20 years, and he understands the intention of an amends, and he understands that what I did back then was not the real Johnathan Schwartz, and I'm grateful for that. We don't communicate today. We talked about going to get coffee. I hope we can, because I really respect him and admire him. In fact, I think he's one of the best asset managers in the world, and I mean that sincerely. But so that's how it became the next client. Like, okay, this client has, enough money for me to take from. They only spend this much, so their goal is to accumulate wealth. So let me take it from the wealth, the portfolio, right, and let me use that to pay for, call it this week's losses.
God, I feel so I can't believe that this is entering my mind. And I know this is wrong.
You want to call me a scumbag?
No, it's not that. It's that my first thought was, how do I do this in such a way that I can get away with it and also give myself an out? Like, at no point, like, to me, I immediately thought, well, you know what you do is you go ahead and start another company, provide invoices for something legit, something reasonable, and then pay those invoices to this company that you're in charge of. And then I can continue to do that because most of these guys have so many invoices that are coming in. This was a catering company or something that's reasonable that you can hit people a little bit across the board, 25,000, 35,000. Because let's face it, you got a big party, and then all those clients aren't going to figure that out at the same time. One client figures it out and you go, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I was provided an invoice and I paid it. And then they would say, that wasn't what invoice for what? You go, I don't know. I thought you had a party. You guys forwarded me an invoice. I mean, then you can say, well, what? It's not your, let me look into it, blah, blah, blah. I contacted a friend of mine on the sheriff's department. He looked into it. Turns out this was a company that actually was doing this. It was a long-term scam. I'm so sorry. We're going to go ahead and pay you back. And then I just pull from another client, wait for them to figure it out. Like, to me, I would be thinking, how do I do this so that I survive an inquiry? And you weren't doing that. You were just like taking it, spending it, thinking I'll pay him back later. But that was because you had like you said, you had a real trust built up, and they weren't going to inquire.
That's exactly right.
Okay. And this has been years. You've known these people for years.
For years. And the one client, like Linkin Park, for example, they weren't a victim, direct victim. Of course, they were an indirect victim in the sense that I embarrassed them, right?
Right.
But the reason why they weren't targeted, for lack of a better word with me, is because they were both individually and collectively very involved and required source documents.
They're going to notice 50 grand missing.
They're going to notice $1 missing. That's how smart they were.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I said earlier, they really taught me everything.
Gotta hate those smart victims.
But no, so that's how it sort of led to, let's say 4, 5, 6. I don't really know the exact amount. I'll call 5 clients, 6 clients on the high side. But ultimately, like, who can I take from in this moment? And then there were some athletes that were in that 5, 6 group category of victims that I would call up, and I'd say, hey, do you want to invest? Give me $30,000. Because let's say that was the loss for the week. I'm gonna take this money and I'm gonna invest it in some nightclub, and I'll give you your $30,000 back with a return. So for 2 or 3 athletes within that 5, 6 of direct victims, that's how I was able to take. So in that case, I wasn't lying to them. I was lying to them, but they knew the money was leaving their accounts. Right. Very different than call it the first 2, 3 victims. Now I'm like, okay, I really have nobody else that I can take from that I feel like I won't get in trouble or caught right away with. Let me call up football player B and say, hey, I need $30,000. I'll give you back $35,000 next week.
Okay.
Something like that.
Colby
I'm
has a
curious,
question.
as far as the logistics of the betting with the bookie, how often do you have to pay him out? Is he not affiliated with any other of your partners? Like, are you worried about, hey, like this guy, him telling somebody that you're in a gambling debt, or like how are you just calling him up? Hey, Friday night, these are the bets I'm going to make. And how often do you have to pay? Just, I guess, the logistics of that.
Sure. Good question. So first of all, the logistics were Monday through Sunday. So at the end of Sunday night, I now know how I lost all week. Okay. I have to pay them by Tuesday. So now, even though I can't sleep Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, or Saturday night, I really can't sleep Sunday night. Why?
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every GhostBed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your GhostBed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a GhostBed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
Because I know I have to come up overnight with some BS excuse to call up the bank and say, John Doe needs $27,500 sent to my office by Tuesday morning. And they say, well, what do you need it for? Well, now I have to give them every week an excuse, because they don't call the clients. I have power of attorney. That's how I was able to steal the money, right? So they call me and I say, oh, well, he's wants to pay cash for some construction he's having done in his house. He got a cheaper price by the contractor. Like the amount of excuses and lies I gave every Monday to the bank to seek money or to the asset manager was disgusting. And that's what almost brought me to offing myself. But this person has a person that worked for him. So the bookie
Right.
was very close with one of my partner's son-in-law.
Ooh.
And it was really like, in fact, this son-in-law saw me after I was sentenced, but before I went away and surrendered into prison, he saw me at a local grocery store. His name is I think his name is Robin. He's quite the ass. So he sees me in a grocery store. He gambles too, by the way.
Right.
But his father-in-law doesn't really know that. So I walk into whatever was Gelson's, and he sees me walking down an aisle. He makes a scene in the grocery store. This guy's going to jail. He stole money. He's a felon. And he's screaming this. I'm so embarrassed. All these things are true, what he's calling me, but I immediately had to walk out. That was really kind of a weird moment.
Serious?
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
It was so embarrassing.
And he's the guy that worked for the bookie.
He didn't. He worked with the bookie on the real estate side, but not on the bookie component. But he also bet himself.
Okay.
So he was also a degenerate who just didn't get caught because he was getting money from my partner because my partner was helping support his son-in-law and his daughter. So it was, for him to do that, he was just, whatever reasons he had. I can't, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But for me, in that moment, it was exciting. And so I had to vacate the Gelson's quickly.
I can't believe that's horrible. What a fucking jerk off, I mean, true or not, it's like, but there's a mechanism. There is a mechanism for this, which is the justice system to take care of that. Like, throwing a little scene there to try and embarrass me. I'm about to go to fucking prison, bro.
Right.
Like, I got enough problems. You don't think that I've already brought enough embarrassment and shame onto my, myself, my family, my partners, and you work for one of the guys that definitely helped facilitate this whole situation. So when this whole thing is happening, I mean, are you thinking every time you do this and you pay these people off, like, okay, boom, I'm sorry, you pay the bookie off, I paid him off, okay. At no time and I already know the answer to this, I'm almost positive. At no time during this whole thing does this guy ever say, listen, bro, you need to get a hold of yourself. You're losing and losing. He didn't give a fuck. He didn't, right? The bookie doesn't give a shit, right? Does he ever say, you got an issue? You got a problem? Because I'm assuming you're kind of feeling like you're friendly with this guy, right? Like you said, didn't he teach Little League or something? You met him at the Little League?
Right. We actually went on vacations with our families together to the Atlantis. Why the Atlantis? Because I always had to go to a hotel that had a casino, right? So we were quote unquote friends until about the last year and a half of this 6-year run. I realized, I said to him, I want to stop. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to off myself. And he's like, okay, cool. Like he's giving me reverse psychology with the okay, cool. So I'm thinking, okay, let me stop. So weeks goes by, maybe 2 weeks go by, and I stop, and he calls back, hey, you sure you don't want to get back into it? All right, let me get back into it. So, he really, that's when I knew that he was actually not just the bookie, he was the end all be all. And so he had $7 million after all this was said and done. And I tried to encourage the government to go get it from him because my attorney said, if you have the money, your sentence will come down because, your guideline will come down based on the amount you embezzled.
Right.
So if you could return that, I said to my attorney, Nathan Hochman, who happens to be the district attorney of LA now, I said, I wish I did. I really wasn't that smart I wasn't smart. I wasn't smart enough to put any money under a rock. So when I came out of prison, I'd have it. That's what my ex-wife kept telling my kids. Your dad has $7 million under her bed. Really? I wish I had $5,000 when I came home. Yeah. I'm poor broke. I have no money. I'm working at, I'll tell you later where I work, but I don't have money.
Right.
Okay? I wish I was smarter than I really thought I was. But so in any case, I forgot where we were. We were at your lawyer said if you have the money, and you said go after. What about the guy that made the fucking $7 million? Go after him. Go talk to him. He's got money. So
he's an illegal bookie, and
he didn't report the income on his taxes. Right? He really could have given the government some money, but the special agents with the IRS that worked in this case to do all the audit, and the prosecutor's office said, well, we're not really interested in him. We just want you. And it's sad because the truth is they could have gotten a lot of money from him.
Right.
If not all of it, at least more than half of it.
Well, you've got the big time, the what is it? The media attention. You're going to get the big bang going after some bookie that's irrelevant. They get to use you. They get to use all these stars' names. They get to really look. This guy took advantage of these people, and we get these big headlines.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's why, and it's sad. But you know what the truth is? Again, I'll keep saying it. I deserved what I got, and
you don't have to keep saying it.
Nobody else.
It doesn't matter that there's going to be people in the comment that are going to say, he's not sorry. There's always some douchebag in the comment section that's going to be like, he's not sorry. Or he's got money underneath his mattress. Same thing saying, listen, I had the same thing. Listen, I had American Greed. Was it American Greed? It was American Greed. American Greed at the end. The Secret Service agent, which looked through all the documents and knows for sure none of this is true, says that Mr. Cox, there's still 7 million, 5 million? There's still 5, even though my restitution's 6. She's like, there's still $5 million missing in Cox's case, and we'd like that money back. Like, what the fuck are you saying? And then they say, then American Greed jumps in there with, it'll be a long time before Mr. Cox can remove that money from his Cayman Island account. Cayman Island account? Like, what are you talking about? I always joke with my wife. I said, how cool would it be if when I get off probation, I said, I get off, we get the letter in the mail, and I say, grab your passport. We're going to the airport. I said, we jump on a plane, we fly to the Cayman Islands, and I really do have $5 million in a Cayman Islands account. I go, how cool would that be? She goes, very cool. Is it true? And I said, no. She said, well, okay.
Yeah. There's no money hidden.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would have been nice.
My favorite was, I used to joke about this too. I used to say, I'm going to go one night, I'm going to dig a hole in my ex-wife's backyard, just a few feet, right? And then, or shoot, 10 inches, dig a hole, put a black box in there, and then bury it. And then I said, when I'm going to pull up, I'm going to wait until she's pulling up in her car, and I'm going to be in the backyard digging up the hole, and I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to throw it in the back trunk and get in the car. She's going to be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I'll be like, don't worry about it. I'm going to back my car out and drive away.
Yeah.
She would be like, what's in the box? What are you doing?
Yeah, unfortunately, there was no money that I was able to conceal or hide.
Oh,
and that made re-entering society after prison really pretty awful.
Oh, I know. It's horrible, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't realize. I had a guy that gave me, I'm going to say 3, is it 3 or 400? I forget exactly.
I've always heard
400. Yeah. I think there was a guy who was locked up who, it's funny because he had put money on my books before. You know how you can only spend so much.
Right.
Which I think maybe one time, the whole time I was locked up, almost 13 years, I only hit my limit once. It was because I bought a pair of tennis shoes.
Wow.
I only bought one pair of tennis shoes myself the whole time I was locked up. So he would, because he hit his limit every month, he would send money to my books, $200, whatever, and say, can you buy me $200? Whatever, buy me whatever you can buy, use 40 for yourself or something. You buy, the scam.
Yes.
So he would mail me, he'd send that money. So I knew the name it came in. It wasn't his name. It was somebody else's name on the street. And so I was joking about when I got out, I was going to the halfway house for 7 months. And I used to joke with everybody. I was like, bro, I'm going to make sure that I've spent every single dollar. And so it was like a week. I think it was like maybe a week before I left. No, can't get paid anymore. And I said that I actually was going to have like 79 cents. And I was like, I have so little money on the card they're going to give me that I couldn't even use the card because they charge you like $1.50 to use it. I said, I won't even be able to get the 79 cents because they charge you $1.50 to use the card. And I was laughing about it. Everybody's like, wow, bro. I was like, you're going to totally broke. I said, totally broke. I said, nobody's going to help me. I got nobody to send me money, nothing. Yeah. I said, but it's good though, because I'm going to get the halfway house and I'm going to go work at McDonald's. They're like, you're not going to work at McDonald's. I'm like, I want to work at McDonald's.
Right.
I want to work at McDonald's. I want to be 5 years from now. I want to look back when somebody's bitching and moaning about how hard it is. I'm going to be like, motherfucker, I was working at a McDonald's 5 years ago with no money. And so I used to joke about this. And so when I was about to get out, one day I go to do something, I forget. I get on the computer and I happen to look down and there's $400 on my account. And I went, what the fuck? And keep in mind, I don't have enough time to go to, there's no commissary for me between now and the time I leave.
Right.
So I look at it and I go to him, and I know it's his, the same name he has people send me money. Go to him, and his name is Tommy. I go, Tommy, I said, bro, did you send me $400? And he goes, yeah, I did. And I went, why? I said, I'm not going to commissary. And he goes, no, this is for when you hit the halfway house. He goes, you're going to need some stuff.
Oh, that's nice.
And he goes, he said, you're going to need some clothes. And he goes, and I know, he said, I know you think it's funny that you're going to get out with nothing to start. He said, but you're going to need something. Yeah. He goes, so it's $400 and you've been cool with me and I'm cool with you. And he said, so we're good. And I was like, I said, bro, it's not like I can pay you back. Or they said, I don't give a fuck about that. He didn't give a shit. He had plenty of money. He was like, yeah. But so listen, that meant so much to me.
Sure.
Because I had nothing. I went and spent $300 at Walmart. And listen, people were like, you don't have any money. Oh, I don't have any money. Listen, for $300, you can get an entire wardrobe at Walmart.
Absolutely.
It's not a great wardrobe. I got rubber black boots. I don't know if you know this, but rubber black boots in Florida, it's not a good situation. I mean, it's complete sweat, just horrible. But I wore rubber black boots almost the whole time. Well, no, not even almost. The entire time I was locked up or in the halfway house, I wore those rubber black boots to work and back. And I got blue jeans, $29.
Yeah.
I think I got a couple two or three pair of those. I remember I got black t-shirts that fit amazing because I was in amazing shape when I got out. Mediums, yeah. Black t-shirt. And it was like $15 for, or was it $20 for 10 of them? Or they were basically like $2 a t-shirt.
Yeah.
They fit amazing though. Now, granted, I realized right away that you could only wash them about 5 times. They started coming undone and coming for it. But it's fine. I worked at the gym, so it's fine. But they work great. But yeah, so I was able to buy a bunch of stuff with that money. And I had $100 left over. Yeah. So I was lucky. People don't even realize that. Like most people don't have a Tommy. Right. And so what do you do then? I think if you had no money at the Salvation Army, I think they would give you like a voucher and you could go into the the Goodwill. It wasn't Salvation Army, by the way. It was Goodwill. It was the halfway houses in Goodwill. So I think they gave you like a $20 or $50 voucher where you could go into Goodwill and get Goodwill clothes. Right. Which probably would have been okay too. Not as good as the Walmart clothes though. Right. No, I get it. Yeah, I'm assuming. And by the way, you know how many times I'd been in Walmart prior to that? 0. Never. Right. Walmart, it was a joke that people shopped at Walmart. Sure. It was embarrassing. You shop at Walmart. I don't even understand what are you saying? Right. They have clothes at Walmart. Well, what do they sell? Like, I don't even know what Walmart sells. It's like, oh, that's, oh my God, bro. Are you serious? Listen, to this day, Jess and I go to Walmart, buy stuff at Walmart. I can't stomach the idea. We went into Saks or Burdines or Dillard's the other day and had to buy clothes. They were like regular, like, they're like $130, $180. Are you out of your fucking mind? Right. I can go to Bell's and get that for $12, and it says Izod or whatever it's. You can get Calvin Klein. You're buying $200 shirts for Calvin Klein. I can go to Marshall's and get it for $18. Yes, it's insane. I can't even stomach the idea of paying that much now, and I can pay that much. I just couldn't do it. Right. I'm sorry. No, it's good. No tangent. It's a beautiful tangent because it's true. It is true. I mean, it's definitely more fiscally responsible today with very little money. You have to watch I watch every dollar. If I go to Starbucks and pay $5.75, that's a lot of money for me today. Oh, yeah, for a latte, right? I could just make my instant coffee from home. Yeah. No, listen. I think I did. I used to go every once in a while when I had a car. I'd probably go once or about 3 times a week, maybe. But I don't think we go now. We probably went 3 or 4 months without ever stopping by there. I do think we went like 2 weeks ago. I think we stopped. Yeah. But other than that, yeah, it's the same thing. It's $5-6. It's fucking ridiculous. It's a waste of money. I mean, literally every dollar counts today. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I told you, I don't have a car. Right. There's no reason for me to have a car. I almost never leave the house. If I go to the gym in the morning, Jess drives. She drives us back. We go to dinner. We go in her vehicle. There's no reason for me to drive. If the other day I had to go to H&R Block. She was at work. I took an Uber. It was $30 there. I remember exactly how much. It was $30 there. It was $36 on the way back. $36 on the way back, plus the tip for both of them. Like that. But to me, if I did that I'd have to do that 20 times
Right.
a month to pay for my car payment. So there's just no reason I used to have a car there. And then the thing is, what people don't realize is that to not have a car, it's an ego thing.
Sure.
It definitely, it's slightly emasculating to be trapped. But you have to I had to kind of sit there and go, no, this is not a responsible decision to be paying $600 or $700 a month on a vehicle that you're driving once or twice a month. And that's to go to pick up because we ran out of like creamer.
Right.
Like that's just stupid. Just don't get your creamer. And when Jess comes home, can you swing by and pick up some creamer?
Right.
It was just like, so I was like, yeah, you're an idiot, bro. Like that's just a waste of money. So that you can feel confident about being able to leave. Like get the fuck over it.
Yeah. Well, when we get there, I'll tell you about my car that I drove when I came out of prison.
Oh no, bro. I promise you, I've got an equally. I had one that when you hit a bump, the radio went out.
Yeah. Exactly.
I would have to bang on the dash to get the radio to come on. So it made me feel kind of cool, like Fonzie. But what was the other thing? Oh, the AC went out after about a month. The AC went out, so I had to roll the windows down.
Florida.
And the worst thing is, one day my ex-wife was visiting my mother, and I came to visit my mother, and she had to pick up her vehicle, which was in another location, and she said, she was going to call somebody, or she was going to have my mom's nurse take her. And I was like, well, I can take you. And she went, okay. She said, yeah, okay. So she gets in the car and we drive there. As we're driving, she went to turn on the radio and it doesn't work. And I went, I said, hold on. And I hit the dash. Bam, bam, and it came on. And I said, and she looked at me, she goes, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And I said the whole Fonzie. I said, yeah, it was kind of cool though, because it makes me feel like Fonzie. And we're driving and she goes, it is really hot. She goes, can you turn on the AC? And I went, yeah. And I hit the windows and they went down. And she goes, your AC doesn't work? I said, yeah, I rolled the windows down. I said, you mean in the car? And I go, no, that's for rich people. That's for rich people. I said, that's not how we're living anymore. And I was driving and she just was staring at me and I looked at her and I went, what? And she goes, you have fallen so far. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, yeah.
Yes.
But I'm like, but I'm okay with it.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like I'm laughing about it. I'm joking about it. Like I feel good about it because it's a good feeling that I'm happier now, that I was happier then. I don't know how happy I'm now, but I was happier then living in the rooming house and driving a shithole car than prior to prison having all the money in the world.
Right.
At least the people that were around me then I knew were around me because they cared about me. And those people before that didn't give a fuck about me.
Yeah. I've learned that too.
So, but we were back at, you had taken from the other client. It was Linkin Park. Linkin Park was so proactive,
right,
and about that you couldn't possibly take from them.
Right,
you had to take from clients that weren't paying attention.
Right, exactly. And so that's how I was able to identify the other few clients, like the athletes that we talked about.
Yeah.
What was the thing you were asking them?
$30,000.
And I'll give you like 10% of that on the yield back next week because I'm going to invest it in like X, Y, and Z.
Are you giving them the money back, or sometimes?
Yes, sometimes.
Not? Okay, sometimes.
And then sometimes I would, yes. And then, I would actually.
Are you betting on their games?
No. No, there's no inside. Unfortunately, no insider betting going on here. But I think now. So now, I just wanted to share with you, like you mentioned your story when you were caught, like how did you get caught?
Right.
And so like for me, like I was in such denial that what happened was I got a call. I was in Tampa Bay, Florida, of all places.
Yeah.
I was in Tampa Bay, Florida. Beyonce was starting her Lemonade tour. And so I get a call from one of my partners and they say that, Atlantis fired me. Let me back up a moment. Atlantis fired me in 2015.
Oh, okay. How come?
She fired me likely because I was giving more of my attention to the bigger name clients, the more relevant clients, and she felt neglected.
Okay.
And so she fires me, and the irony is she goes and hires my cousin that I started my career with's firm.
Okay.
I mean, of all the places, that's the place she chooses to go to. So now my cousin doesn't work on her account, but his partner Howard does. So Howard,
Sorry, when she fires you, you have a deficit with her.
right?
What is that? Is that complete panic? Or you've got to assume they're going to they're going to kind of audit the books real quick before they start, right?
Right. So in 2015, midway through, was the year I really started to have thoughts of just offing myself,
Right.
because I couldn't take this anymore. I mean, I'm violating my clients' fiduciary, my fiduciary responsibility to clients. I don't see a way out here. And that's when I really started using blow every day for 24 hours a day, nonstop, waking up in sheets that are soaked. And I have coronary artery disease. My heart's pounding. And this is why subconsciously I was likely trying to off myself, totally disregarded my health.
Yeah, I'm assuming using, powder and having a heart issue is probably not a good combination.
Right, exactly.
And you're just using it just to make yourself feel better, get yourself up and moving because you're just out of depression.
Yeah, because with that came the party scene, the women, right? And I was cheating on my wife, and I just didn't care about myself anymore. So the only reasons I could identify to live were my 3 children, my wife at the time, and my mother and stepfather. And so that's why ultimately thankfully I got caught, because if I continued using blow, then likelihood I would have been dead. And so now when my cousin's firm calls my partners and says, hey, where did this $4.6 million go? This is the call I receive when I'm really helping Beyoncé with her Lemonade Tour rehearsals. We did it at the Tampa Bay Stadium, whatever stadium that's called. And I'm trying to help her improve her bottom line so she is happy with the profit margin she has. Now I'm like, oh, shit, I'm about to get caught. So now I leave Tampa.
Wait, who calls you?
My partners. They're saying...
So
they're
got
saying
a phone call
Alanis's
from
business manager, your
Called
cousin's partner Howard, called them and said, you turned over the financials
Yeah.
so careless. I turned them over carelessly because I wanted to get caught.
All right.
Okay, so I just turned them over. I didn't ask the bookkeeper to doctor it up. I didn't ask the bookkeeper to clean up everything. Instead of just tucking it under cash withdrawals and put it towards legitimate expenses, I just said, just leave it. I basically just threw my hands up and said, I'm done. Inevitably, at that moment, I knew I'd get caught. I didn't think it'd be as fast as it was. I thought maybe I could have some time to think about, but I didn't. And so I flew back. Now we're talking about sometime in the first quarter 2016.
Wait. Hold on. You still skipped over something. So you're here in Tampa. You get the phone call. What do they say, and what do you say to them?
So good question. So they asked me, what did I do with the $4.6 million that I embezzled from Alanis?
They don't even question. Did they even say what happened? I mean, were they to say you embezzled it?
No.
Or did they say, is there a legitimate reason here? Like, what's going on? Like, are we missing something?
The latter. At this point, they don't know that I stole it.
Okay.
They're asking me legitimately where did the money get spent, because Alanis told her new business manager that she had no idea about 4.6 million. So I lie to my partners at the time. This is how much my ego still existed and my deniability still existed, that I can get out of this thing. I can escape trouble. This is a crazy mindset I had, right? And so I tell them, oh, she invested in a cannabis business and that's where the money went. But, I'll come home, I'll fly back to the office and I'll show you that Alanis signed off on it. I'm like, there's no shot of me showing them that Alanis signed off.
Right.
I'm just trying to
she's
buy.
She's going to tell you. She's going to say, I didn't
Exactly.
invest in any business.
So here I am trying to buy 1 minute at a time before ultimately, everything falls down on me.
Yeah.
And so I was able to buy maybe a couple weeks, and they'd asked me if I had it. And I said, I don't have it. I haven't met with Alanis lately. And so now they call in their lawyers. And so I say to the lawyer, you guys, I'll tell the truth. I'll take a lie detector test. Playing chicken with them, like, again, lying. Like, guys, I'll tell you the truth. I'll go to take a lie detector test.
Yeah, but you don't have the paperwork.
Of course not. This is, again, the ego for Johnathan in the past talking that he thinks he's Superman. He thinks he can beat the system and he'll figure out a way to pay everybody back. now I'm celebrating my anniversary with my now ex-wife, but wife at the time. We're in Santa Barbara, where I'm doing, blow, and I'm gambling.
Does she have any idea?
She has no idea. So I get a call from Michael Oppenheimer, my partner that I talked about earlier, my mentor, and he said, "You said you would take a lie detector test. This is on let's call it a Sunday or Saturday night. We want you to come Sunday or Monday, whatever day it was, to Beverly Hills." Now, this is about an hour and a half away. My wife and I are celebrating our anniversary. And we want you to come and take a lie detector test. Okay, no problem. So now this is a Saturday night. I hang up the phone. Now I have to tell my wife the truth. I have to tell her everything I've been doing in 6 years. So I tell her. And to my surprise, she said, "Well, why don't we Google how to beat the lie detector test?" I'm like, "I'm high. I'm high. I got blow in my system. I'm placing bets." And I'm like, "Great idea." So
Your wife's a gangster.
Well, she, I don't know why she was so cooperative with me. But instead of saying "F you, we're divorced" right away, effective immediately, she did that maybe a month or two later.
Yeah.
But in that moment, that was what I thought she would say. But she knew that I did really. She knew I was a good guy. Obviously I did horrible things, right? Deep down in my soul. So she supported me. We Googled it. Now I get in the car. Next morning I wake up. I'm like, well, I'm going to go down and meet one of the former FBI agents, best polygrapher and polygrapher, and I'm going to beat this system, right? This is my mentality. So much so that in the car ride, remember, about an hour and a half, I'm doing blow after blow after blow. It was May 8th, 2016, because my sober date is May 9th, 2016, and I placed my last bet with my bookie. This is what I'm doing on the way to get this lie detector test done, okay? I walk in there arrogant. I walk in there like this big shot to this professional. Never taken a lie detector test in my life before, but now I know I can beat it, right? I'm on blow, no problem.
You've read a couple articles, right?
Yeah, of course. A couple articles. Who goes to a lie detector test like where your body is shaking from the stimulant?
I was gonna say you're gonna that machine, I would say, isn't even going to register that you're telling the truth when you say your name at this point. It's gonna be should be so fucked up just because your body's in such a chaotic state.
Right. So the degenerate I am, I don't know what's going to happen, but I didn't realize this until after the test was over. He's trying to build a rapport with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking the guy likes me. I'm building this rapport with this guy, right? Like he's asking me all these questions.
He's going to work with me.
Yeah, he's going to work with me. He's going to be kind to me. So next thing I know now, he's like, this is about maybe after 2 hours, he's ready to connect me to the machine. So I sit down. He asks me, did I steal money from Alanis Morissette? No. All these questions. No. So I leave there thinking maybe there's a chance that I passed. So as that day progressed, I couldn't reach my attorney. He hadn't heard anything yet from the polygrapher. And later that afternoon, early evening, I called my assistant because I no longer had access to my office computer. So that's the sign that maybe I didn't pass. So I called her. I said, can you access? She goes, no. She goes, yes, I can. I go, oh. So then I call my lawyer. My lawyer says, I was just about to call you. Just so you know, Johnathan, you failed that test worse than anybody in the history of this former FBI agent polygrapher. I said, oh, so what does this exactly mean? Well, it means you need to come to my office tomorrow and we've got to figure out a strategy. So now I'm starting to really cry because this is becoming real. And I talked to my ex-wife and I asked him on the phone because she was there with me. I said, what do you think I'm facing? He goes, Johnathan, I don't know. We got to figure this out, but probably over 20 years. I said, now I'm like, my God, my poor kids, my wife. Now my whole crime's going to be revealed, all the people that I hurt. And so we met, and he's a brilliant attorney, and he was able to work out a 4 to 6 year plea agreement with the government. And then, so that was in May of 2016.
What happens in the interim? Are you still living at your house? What's your wife saying?
So for about a month or two, I stayed in the house, and actually about a month and a half. And then we just weren't getting along. Now she realized what I really did. It became more clear. It was now she's starting to see it on the news. We have to, it's becoming public. So she's hearing it from everybody in the community. Like now it's all.
Are there newspaper articles?
Newspaper articles, magazine articles, TMZ, like everyone is coming out all over the news with Johnathan, former Atlantis Morissette business manager embezzles $7 million. And now, unfortunately, I'm embarrassing my children and my wife and my mom. And so before I left, because she kicked me out, I said, let's fly to Chicago, where my oldest son, who went to school in Indiana, he graduated, he was working. I said, I don't want him to see before this comes out on TMZ. So we need to go down there, please, and tell him the truth. And so I flew out there, told him the truth. And then my middle son, we called and told the truth, sat him down and called him as well. And my younger son, we told. And it was the worst day of my life to tell my children, look them in the face, how much I hurt them,
Right.
Really hard. Excuse me. But today, so that takes me into getting sentenced on May 3rd, on July 11th, 2017, I get sentenced to what I thought would be 5 years, which is what the government had asked for, and within the plea agreement, and the judge gave me 6 years. And, I was hurt. It was hard because on the side of the federal government at that time, sitting on the side of the federal government was my ex-wife and my middle son. And that was the hardest things I've ever experienced to date. But as I've shared with you before, I believe it's really important. Like today in recovery, I could, like back then, after I was sentenced to 6 years and I saw my middle son in the garage, I called him every name in the book. I was so hurt, right? Today, I look at it and going, my middle son, who I hurt very much along with my other sons, and my ex-wife, who I hurt so much, wouldn't be sitting on the side of the federal government if I, Johnathan Schwartz, didn't do what I did. Right. And that's sort of how I look at things today in my recovery. Instead of blaming everybody, instead of playing the self-pity victim role, woo me, I've done enough reflecting over the last several years to realize that I get to take responsibility, for these poor choices that I made and for all the people that I hurt, not just my direct victims, but the indirect victims, the community my kids were raised in Agora Hills, California, to the entertainment world, all these people that were in some way directly or indirectly affected by my poor choices. I look at today, and I don't live in my past. But I don't forget it. And I think that's an important part of me living today. This with this humility, it's like, if I live in the past, then how am I going to learn forgiveness? How am I going to be the better version of myself, carrying guilt and shame? It just doesn't work that way in recovery. So I'm almost 9 years sober, and obviously it'll be the day after I did a lot of the snow and gambling on the way to that polygraph test. But that's how I got caught, and that's.
Yeah, I was going to say if you went, obviously you went to prison. I don't know where you did time, but 99% of the inmates in there blame they'll blame everybody else. They'll blame this guy, the people that cooperated against them. They'll blame the government. They'll blame the agents. They'll blame their co-defendants. Like they'll blame all these people, and very seldomly, even if they're taking responsibility, they always got too much time. Even me to this day, like 26 years, I'm like, 26 years is fucking ridiculous. But but I absolutely should have gone to prison. I probably should have gotten 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Like I probably did roughly the amount of time I should have. But in general, so to meet an inmate that says, oh, I should be here, or, oh, no, I fucked up. Oh yeah, no, totally my fault. Or then the guys that go to prison and then their wives leave them. Then they hate their wives. They dislike their children, their wives, their relatives. Anybody that gave up on them, they're like, oh, they're a scumbag. They're a scumbag. It's like, wait a minute. Your wife didn't sign up for this.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? I'd say this is worse than cheating, because a lot of wives will accept, or wives and husbands will accept, okay, you cheated, you had a moment of weakness, you lied a few times. Let's get past this. Let's move on. We have a successful marriage. We're partners. Let's move on. But this is something that they look at and they're like, I didn't sign up to be married to a degenerate gambler, junkie, or whatever.
Yes.
I certainly, and a cheater, and someone that lied about it for years. So when someone says, hey, and now they're going to get out, be a felon, not be able to provide for me the way I'm accustomed to, which, any one of those things you could be angry about. I'm angry because I cheated on you. It was wrong, but you should give me another chance. You could maybe make an argument for that. Probably not, but you could. Some people do, and it's whatever. It's questionable, but the combination of all those things, then it's like you got to go. It's like I tell you, for instance, we talked about this on the phone. Like my son didn't talk to me for years. Just recently started talking to me. The worst part about that was like he has a powerful argument. I can't say you're wrong. No,
Right.
bro, you misunderstood. No, you understand exactly, and this is the decision you made. And it's, unfortunately, if I was anyone but me, I'd probably be saying you probably made the right call.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's a horrible situation to be in when you're absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
You want to get forgiveness. I feel I deserve forgiveness. I know you feel maybe you deserve forgiveness. That's probably how you feel. I don't know for sure, but and the worst thing is having been someone who's gone through that, made those horrific choices.
Right.
I like to think I would forgive someone because I've been that person, but they don't know that.
No.
Your wife doesn't know. She's never made those mistakes.
Yeah, and to answer your question, I actually don't feel like I deserve their forgiveness. I feel like I hurt them, and it's not the word deserving. I want to earn back their love and their trust, not through the mouth that they know was so dishonest and manipulative before, but through my actions. And that's why I'm such a big 12-stepper today, because it's all about doing the next right action. It's all about one day at a time. And for me, with the humility I have today versus the antithesis in my active addiction being this egomaniac, I'm able to surrender on a daily basis to my higher power. And it's not religion. It's just spirituality. It's like I have a power greater than Johnathan, because they say in the program, like my will, Jonathan's will got me to where I am today. Was the one that made those mistakes, those poor choices. But if I realize that there's a power greater than me, I pray every day to that higher power, please bring 2 of my 3 sons back into my life when they're ready. And that's why I don't deserve it. Then when they're ready, they'll come back on my life. And it'll be probably received like you did with your son as a blessing. I want my boys back in my life. They're the most important people in my life, along with my mother and stepfather. But it's been almost 9 years. But you know what? They're adults. And when they're ready to come welcome dad back into their world in whatever capacity that might look like, it'll be the happiest day of my life. And I know it'll happen, it's just not yet.
You mentioned AA. It's funny. AA is, I mean, it's one of, my dad tried to get sober so many times, so many different programs, so many different 90 days in this one, 30 in this one, 60 in this one. The only time it ever took hold was this one program that taught that it went by, AA and the 12 steps. And then, of course, he kept going to the meetings. Initially, he went to meetings every single day, probably for a year. And then he started running the meetings, and then it got to a point where he was going, a few times. He'd go maybe 3 times a month. I mean, not a month. I'm sorry, a week. And then he continued that all the way. I don't know if it was I wasn't in prison. So at some point I was out of the whole situation, but it was the only thing that kept him sober almost the entire time. And I think, I really feel like that. My sister would probably correct me. She'd probably be like, no, one time he fell off and whatever. But I don't think so. I don't recall that. It was the only time when he went into a program and it taught the 12 steps and he got out and entered into the 12-step program and continued with it, that he stayed sober almost the entire time that I know of.
Yeah.
Other ones didn't take. I think a lot of them have overlapping similarities, but definitely AA was And AA was probably one of the few that I think also teaches, a higher power too, which I believe in. Not that everybody does, but I do. So, I like to think that probably has something to do with it. At the very least, it gives you a purpose, and I think having purpose is huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's given me a purpose, and I'm also very involved in it, right? Like I was the Los Angeles Intergroup for Gamblers Anonymous co-chairman for a year. I was the secretary of the entire Los Angeles region Intergroups Gamblers Anonymous for a year. I attend Gamblers Anonymous today on a weekly basis. I had a commitment. My term came up. I still go. I love going. I love the idea of a fellowship. But what happened was when I came home out of prison, when I came home, no one would hire me. I was a felon. Mm-hmm. So like you with the McDonald's, I took a job at Dunkin' Donuts. And
that's the equivalent. That's the equivalent.
It's the equivalent of McDonald's. Yeah. And for me, I thought I needed to become more humble when I came home. I was humble, but not humble enough. And working in Dunkin' Donuts provided me with the humility I needed to really just look into the future and have some hope, right? That, I'd be able to figure something out that I really want to have a passion for. And so I was fired after about 2-3 months at Dunkin' Donuts because I wasn't cleaning the floors well, even though I did that in prison, or I wasn't cleaning the shelves more. I mean, I got fired.
Really?
And so now I'm thinking, what am I going to, now this is during COVID because I was released April 16th, 2020. So now I can't find a job. It takes me a few months. This Lexus of Thousand Oaks hires me as an auto salesperson. I don't know anything about selling cars.
Right.
But there's this thing called TrueCar, which gives you great prices on cars. Okay, so for anyone out there that's listening, you want to buy a car or lease a car, go on TrueCar because there are local dealerships in your community that have a strategic relationship with TrueCar. So when a customer walks in now and they say they want to lease a Lexus, here's the price I got on TrueCar, the dealership has to accept that.
Right.
That's the lowest price they can get. So the dealership's not making that much money, right? But most importantly, I would tell clients or customers when they came in, say to my manager, you heard from TrueCar. This way I could look them in the eye. Johnathan now with integrity, Johnathan now with a moral compass that he didn't have for so long, is telling them, you're going to get the best price. Okay? I say that to give you sort of this next share I'm going to give you, which is in California, the auto salespeople are governed by the Department of Motor Vehicles. So I was given a 3-4 year provisional license while they do their background search. I'm sorry, 3 to 4 month provisional license. In month 3, I received from the Department of Motor Vehicles that I can no longer work at Lexus of Thousand Oaks because of my background.
We had another guy from California, by the way, same thing. It's
amazing. But one thing I'll never take away. So of course I said, I want to go in front of the judge. I had the right to appeal. So I did an administrative hearing on Zoom during COVID. The judge saw how much rehabilitation I've done. I go to meetings in prison. I programmed more than most people ever programmed. I taught a victim impact class to help people accept that there are victims of their crimes, whether it's white collar or other. And so the judge was like, let's give this guy this chance. On paper, he's done everything he can do. And the manager and the general manager all support that he's a good guy today. He's not that old degenerate. And so the judge said, I'll do that. Now the lawyer for the Department of Motor Vehicle says, no, Your Honor, we will not do that. Here's why. Because auto salespeople is the number one profession with integrity. Now, the old Johnathan with an ego would say, what the F are you talking about? Are you kidding me? No disrespect, by the way, to people I love auto salespeople. No disrespect, but I can tell you that they're all looking to fill their pockets with commissions, which means they're not giving you the best price. But Johnathan Schwartz truly was.
Right.
So I'll never forget that. So now I've lost a job at Thousand Oaks after losing the job at Dunkin' Donuts. So what am I going to do? And I decided, let me pay it forward. Let me help people. So I go and I take this 6-7 month online addiction studies school to become an expert in addiction and trauma, right, if you will. And so I've got my license in CADAC to get now let me go get a master's degree. Let me become a marriage and family therapist with an emphasis in addiction and trauma. I go to grad school. So today I'm a program director. If I can, I'd like to give a shout out to Altus Rehab, which is a 6-bed luxury detox and residential. We actually have a second house opening up. And we're just helping people who have co-occurring disorders, substance use and mental health. And this is why, while I make very little money, I also work as a teletherapist for a nonprofit Chabad treatment center in LA as well. So I'm giving back to my community. I'm giving back. I'm making an impact on people to not make the same mistakes that Johnathan made himself. I want to help people not make those same mistakes. Ask for help, like I talked about earlier. Be vulnerable. Be honest. Have the courage to share how you're feeling right now with a loved one or a professional therapist. Or if you're struggling with addiction, go to treatment, please. Because most people in addiction have that trauma that we talked about or some other adverse experiences, and they don't realize how much we rupture and hurt our family.
Right. We also feel alone. You feel like you're the only one going through it. And when you go to AA or something, one of these programs, you start to talk to other people that are just like you. You realize, like, well, I'm not alone, and you can bounce back. And these people have been through, I don't have to lie to these people. They've been through what I've been through. And they go around and they tell their stories, and you're like, that guy just told my story. That guy just told my story. That guy, like, these aren't completely vastly different. Like, a lot of these people will have almost an identical story to yours, and here's how they faced it and went through it, and here's what happened, and here's where they are now, and you don't feel so alone. And I think that helps you. I mean, that's just my take. I mean, I could be completely wrong.
No, you're completely right.
It helps you feel better about the situation, and I think it allows you to realize that, hey, there's a path here to get through this, as opposed to thinking about taking your own life. Like, that's, I'm so narcissistic. Like, I'll take it out about 15 other people before I go, just people that are making me uncomfortable. I feel like you're contributing to me feeling bad about myself. You're going, but yeah. So at least hey, there's a path to be followed here, and where you can get through this. And I know because this guy did it, and this guy did it, and a lot of times those are some people that can actually help you. And a lot of times there are people there that can give you good advice, albeit maybe brutal. I know my dad had talked about one time there was a guy, they went around and he was complaining about how he couldn't find a job. I just can't find it. It's so hard. And he was going on and on and on. And he looked at him and he went, what kind of job are you looking for? He's like, I mean, are you holding out for a job making $250,000 as a board of directors, or what are you doing? Like, you keep saying, he's like, my idiot kid can find a job. You can find a job. Maybe it's at Dunkin' Donuts. Maybe it's working at a car dealership. You'd still be working there, by the way, in Florida, because Florida, I think part of it is that they don't hire you unless you have a felony. But you know what I'm saying? Like, but my dad looked at this guy and he's like, what are you doing? Like, sometimes it's tough love. Sometimes it's like, stop being a fucking jackass. You come here every day for 6 months. I've seen you 3-4 times a week for 6 months saying, oh, how hard your life is. You can't find a job. But the truth is, you can find a job. You're holding out for a job making $300,000 a year that, maybe you have to go find a shitty job at Burger King or McDonald's or something and work your way up, but you can find a job. And, that guy came up to him later, like, he found a job the next week, came up to him a week later and said, you were right, bro. Like, I've been feeling bad for myself. And you're right. I've been applying for positions that I get turned down for because I don't qualify. And I know when I'm filling out the application, I don't qualify for this.
Right.
I think I deserve this, but you're right. It is easier to find a job when you have a job than it is to find a job when you don't have a job.
Right. And then so many of these people that come in, whether it's Altus Rehab or any other treatment center, some of them are homeless, or some of them, relapsed after being in sober living, and now they don't have a job, like you said. And so, now it's time, before you leave here, to let's get that resume. Let's look for jobs while you're here. So when you walk out this door, hopefully you have an aftercare plan that includes going back to sober living. But either way, even at sober living or not, you need to be gainfully employed. And it could be doing anything. Yeah. Like you said, like, just roll up your sleeves, get what you need. You're going to need to put food on the table. And it's tough for people out there, but they have to be motivated, right? Because they're still so early in recovery.
Well, a lot of times they don't want to humble themselves, and they think, oh, I'm better than working at McDonald's. Are you?
Right,
you know
exactly.
What I'm saying? Are you better than working at McDonald's? I mean, let's face it, you've got an addiction problem. You're on the street. You've let down everybody you know. I don't think you are better. I think you go work as a cashier at Walmart until you can get a better job, and you work your way up because you have some proving to do. Those guys that think, oh, I deserve better than that. The fuck, bro. No, you don't.
You don't.
Like, stop. Like, that is such a cathartic thing to humble yourself and be appreciative of you have, especially when you have nothing.
Right.
You know, that's when it really helps change the person that you are, is when you have nothing, and to be appreciative of just the simple things, you know, like walking the track and feeling the sun on your face and being like, wow, this is like it's always funny because in those moments when you have nothing and you're walking the track in prison, that you feel alive. Like you got nothing and you're getting out to nothing and you're happy to be walking the track and the sun's hitting your face and it feels good. Like those are amazing moments.
It's true. I used to walk almost like 15, 17 miles around the track a day just to get away from where I had to sleep. But you're right. I mean, it's all about gratitude today for me, right? Like I'm grateful, like I talked about earlier, for that $5.75 Starbucks, that maybe I could treat myself to a latte today. Mm-hmm. There are times where my refrigerator may not have a lot of food in it. I'm grateful that I have a box of cereal I can eat. You know, I'm really living in gratitude today. And I certainly didn't live that way in my active addiction and during my criminal behavior. But today I'm humbled by everything. I'm humbled that I get to be here with you. Like, you know, I would have come to a podcast before I even knew there were podcasts. Let's say in my active addiction, I'd be like, wait a second, I'm coming here. You're lucky I'm coming here, with that attitude, right? Today, I'm grateful that Matthew Cox and your team said I can be welcomed here, because it's an honor to be at your, you know, to meet you in person as a host of a podcast that I respect. And it's because I don't judge anybody today. And I want to say this if I can, because earlier you said something about like our friends, right? A little bit about friends. When this became public, I was seeing an Eastern Western medicine doctor, and he saw this and he called me and he said, I want you to show up at this house tomorrow. You need to wear a suit. So I put a black suit on. I have no idea what I'm doing. I go into this house. I know nobody. The doctor's not even there yet. I walk in the backyard where I'm directed, and there's a rabbi giving a eulogy at a funeral, and people are crying. I have no idea. So now, shortly afterward, the doctor arrives. I'm sitting, of course, in the back row because I don't know anybody. Right. And I said, Doc, what is this? Doctor says, this is a staged funeral. It's a staged funeral. I started hearing about the popularity about it in 2016 or whatever.
It's not a real funeral. Yeah. Okay.
But it's not a real funeral. So it was the reality shows around this time. So I said, okay, so these people think this man is dead? Johnathan, he says, yes, Johnathan. He's actually upstairs. Nobody knows. This is his house, watching his own funeral because he fears death. So, wow, okay. I feel bad for the people that really think he's dead, but okay for the moment. So then shortly thereafter we leave. He says to me, the doctor says to me, Johnathan, what's your takeaway from this? I said, give me a moment to process that. I process and I say, okay, I think I understand why you asked me to come here. I said, in the height of my career, if I were to die, I'm making this number up. Let's say 600 plus people would be at my funeral. 98.5% of those people would have been there out of professional obligation. Okay, not because they care about Johnathan Schwartz. Right? Those that I did business with, et cetera, et cetera. Today, if I pass away, this is what I said back in 2016, 17. I said, maybe, and today, literally, I would say the same thing. Maybe I'd have 50 people at my funeral. But at least those 50 people care deeply for me. That's more powerful to me. Why do I bring that story up, if you will? I bring it up because today I have very few friends and very few people in my life by design. I have a quality inner circle. I don't have the ego that needs quantity of friends. I want genuine, authentic people in my life who don't judge me and I don't judge them. And that's who I surround myself with today. And that's what I try and model for clients struggling with addiction and mental health. Like, it's about quality of people who support you. There's healthy and there's unhealthy relationships, right? So don't surround yourself only with healthy people, okay? And not just limited to sober peers, healthy people that are called normies today. But the moment you start to surround yourself with phony people who might even drink or use substances, you know, in abundance, or other unhealthy people, likelihood of you relapsing goes up significantly. So surround yourself with quality people. And so for me, I'm also grateful that I get to surround myself with a handful of quality friends in my life today.
Can you list the clients that you worked with, or some of the more notable ones?
Sure, I'll list a handful of them. I represented, as I said earlier, Linkin Park. I represented Beyoncé, Chance the Rapper, Halsey, Gwyneth Paltrow, Mariah Carey, Matthew McConaughey, and many others, and some athletes as well, but for now, those are probably the main ones.
And did you ever run into any of them after the fact?
No, two of them called me when this just came out, not knowing all the details, asking me if I'm going to be okay, and I told them no, and I really can't talk about why. And but it was nice of those two people to call me. One was Brad from Linkin Park. I love him and his family. He was genuinely concerned, and the other was Tamika, the widow of EZ from Ruthless Records. But I couldn't get into the details. But I appreciated that they called once they heard on the news that this happened, and I was no longer with the firm.
In the small chance that they're watching this or this gets put into a clip, do you have anything to say to them now?
I would say to the clients that were direct victims, I'm very sorry for the pain and suffering I caused you. I understand that you got the money back, but again, as I've said, it doesn't make what I did wrong right to you. And I would love the opportunity to make a formal amends if you have time to meet with me in person, and answer any questions that they might have for me as well. And for the indirect victims, I would also like a chance to apologize to them, those that I didn't directly embezzle money, for embarrassing them as their business manager who they trusted, and I committed a white-collar crime and violated my fiduciary responsibility, and I would love to talk with them as well.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you listening. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Also, we're going to leave all of Johnathan's links in the description box. So you can just click on the description box, go there, and you can follow him and subscribe to his channels and check out his journey. I appreciate you guys watching, and please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. We put Patreon exclusive content on Patreon. It really does help Colby and I make these videos. So thank you very much. See ya.